Okay, our next reader is Jessica L. Walsh. She's the author of Blowdown, which is published this year by Small Harbor. It's already out, and three previous collections. The Book of Gods and Grudges is available, and it's I'm not sure if it's the second or third, but it doesn't matter. The List of Last Tries is another book by Jessica, and Diane Seuss called that one A Miracle of Focus, which is enough to make me want to immediately grab it and read it. And she also has a poetry book called How to Break My Neck, which is in its second edition. And I think I've only known of a couple of poets who their book got into a second edition. So that's a triumph all on its own. Um, Rita, or I'm sorry, Jessica, has had her work in the Best American Poetry blog, journals like Rhino, Painted Bride Quarterly, Crab Creek Review, and many more. She's originally from small town Michigan, and she lives near Chicago and teaches at Harper College. And I will be putting links in the chat for all of her work. And we welcome, Jessica. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Rita, it was wonderful to listen to your work. I got all wrapped up. That was outstanding. And most of the references I actually got. So that was great. So what I'm going to read is from Blowdown, the new book. And one of the I've discovered as I've been doing readings from this over the last couple of months is one of the cool things for me is being able to select poems in different orders and different ways that create a story out of what kind of seems scattered around in a lot of ways, since I'm picking, here and there from the collection. And so I get to give it kind of a particular focus. And so I'm going to read a poem from very early in the book that I think kind of captures what the questions I was trying to answer when I went into this book. And then I'm going to focus specifically on a particular series of poems. So essentially, this is a book that was trying to dig into questions of family history, which, to be brief, I don't have a lot of access to. And so the researcher in me decided to really dig in and try to figure out what some of the things were that had been silences kind of in our beyond my parents' generation. And so this first one I'm going to read is With My Boots On. Whose winged project was I when I crashed into a pile of dirt and held it like the front line, playing king of the hill the way my mother taught me, kicking boys in the face when they came for me, watching them tumble away. Bitch, they said, and it's true. I ripped into life looking for a fight I can't win or tap out of. So give me my accounting. Pulp this family tree and make of it a ledger. Where did that marrow come from? Whose chicken legs and soft belly? Who loosed my bones and clenched my fists? Who traded beauty for breadth, gave me guilt without confession? What gave birth to my debts, poured the salt of my thirst? Who made me fall in love with death and life in equal parts, robbing graves to circle skeletons like a sad birthday party that ends in sad poetry? Who holds me here through decades I believed could never come? Whose long nights do I keep when my body tosses to dawn? Who flays and wires my mind with the same terrible questions, then binds my head in the silence of a disappointing seance? Who are the shadows at my back from long before my life that skitter away when I turn my head? Where are they, the resolute who wrote my answers? What part of me was inevitable? Or was I always past the point? I'm asking, am I my own fault? So the poems I'm going to kind of take a focus on a little bit, and tonight are mostly about my maternal grandmother. She was probably one of the relatives who was most present. That's saying something. Because it was not very much. She was an extremely emotionally distant person, and difficult to love, very cold, and very judgmental and worried about appearances and things. And so digging into her life was really a revelation. And almost all of the information that I got came from newspapers, small town, columns on who was doing what, really rural. I found out a lot my mom didn't know. And that was really strange, to be able to call my mom and say, did she ever talk about this? And she'd say, are you kidding? That's not even her. And I said, no, it is. And so it was a process. Um, but doing all of this helped me understand her in a way that I think it makes me much more gentle with her memory. Um, this is the dying year, 1926. Like scared horses, they race wild to get away. Mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. A girl not grown, but grown enough to raise her brother, sets off to survive, works farms or schoolhouses, stays within a day of 4 sunburned graves she never visits. Whether she resents her brother who wants more and more, or rages at her dead for running, she never tells. Decades line up to carry her forward into a long, long life of hard work and light sleep, of keeping her brother close and her mouth closed in a cold, tight line. After my grandmother, she was 16 when she lost her parents and grandparents in a series of months. She became either a ward or a worker of a place in southern Michigan, the Coldwater State Home or Coldwater State School. It was an institution that was orphanage, unwed mother home, like this kind of hodgepodge of that era of, kind of these state institutions that were going to raise and fix um, children who might otherwise not be given a lot of hope or place in society. Um, and so she went to the Coldwater State School. And let me just double check my page number because, of course, I wrote it down wrong. I wrote down page numbers, and then there you go. There. This is the Coldwater State School, 1927. Weeks after she buries her family, she stands on a wraparound porch where rocking chairs tilt empty in bitter winter wind. On the threshold of a time she'll never name, the years that chase her like a wolf fattening on shame. She lives on the run from what stays leashed tight to her heels, learns what it means to be pursued, watched, how punishment follows pause, proper posture for perpetual vigilance. Which hand holds the knife, where the knife belongs when it's a message, what the message is that can slow the wolf long enough for her to try polite society, where people have people. She bakes a cake, chiffon, serves on crystal plates with punch from a crystal bowl. But true ladies know lard from butter. She learns then that it was all for nothing. Quiet, constant panic, striving, disguising. Nothing covers the marks of the wolf. One of the things I learned about the Coldwater State Home, was that right around the time she got there, it was under investigation for the incredibly high number of deaths. Um, and there was an audit that resulted in new staffing and a new president and things like that. And so the nurses previously had been called angel makers. If you're familiar with any of this kind of era of institutions, or, and some of it would go back as far as, Jane Eyre and things, the angel makers, because they were nurses who were known for causing a lot of death. So it's a sweet sounding term that is horrific. So this is after the audit, Coldwater State Home, 1928. Nurses gossip huddled in halls, scared the worst is coming. Reform means an end to what they've learned to do and done. Their bread and butter gone, children's bread suddenly buttered in a hall heated with coal that staff can't steal anymore. In the system, one side survives. Mercenary nurses called angel makers who cozy up with undertakers for a cut per coffin. Or the children dropped here, orphans at best, most hopeless already, convicted by birth. Old nurses resign, younger ones come, schooled to keep every child just this side of alive. Like the girl who turns 17, becomes staff by day, but stays ward by night. She stands on a line, and there she hesitates. Um, for reasons that make a lot of sense, and in hindsight, my grandmother was obsessed with the idea that every goodbye was a last goodbye. That every time we saw someone, that was it. She believed that her husband was dying, although he was not. And because he had a very minor bout with prostate cancer that was very treatable and treated, but she couldn't let it go. And so this is addressing that kind of every goodbye being final, which is something I've had to work on so I can let people come and go. I may never see you again. Every day he was about to die, though no one told him. In those times, sickness grew from its name. Today may be his last, and today again. He barely spoke and slept fitfully. Today he seems well, but is he really? His daughters walk on straw, say, I love you over and over. They graduate early and marry quickly, have their own daughters because this might be it. They rush life under threat. Don't you want him to see? 30 years pass before he dies. Every prophecy of death is someday true. The Hemlock Guide to Suicide tucked between classics. They found it when she died at 96 of old age. She didn't use the hatch, but whether she ever tried can be added to the catalog of all she vaulted away. I don't know if life or line makes me keep trying to try to kill myself. What keeps me alive? Remember how I starved myself bloodless? I could hear my brittle ribs clatter until I fell in love and licked peanut butter off of his spoon. Later on, drove drunk enough that I couldn't read my speed. Aimed at the train trestle west of High V, but a girl crossed the road. She wasn't me, so probably deserved to live, or maybe to die. I don't know what punishment is now. If penance is another day or its absence. Even now, I have 89 Ambien in a bottle behind my socks. Look, I know I'm going to lose this life, but I want to call it the way my mom quit her job too early because leaving on her own terms was better than severance. We were stubborn broke. These days, she cries in the car outside the food pantry, calls me and says she wants to die, calls me again the next day. Some people, my people, puff themselves to death and keep walking. There's one I've found really moving to read out loud, and I've taken to just loving hearing it. My grandmother left some very carefully curated, more or less pointless journals. Like they were very like superficial, and I don't know. She thought she was they're just. Yeah, I read all of them, and I learned very little, except how much she tried to not give away anything about herself. And but there are little glimpses. She was a wonderful writer, and she should have been a writer, and she should have had a different life. And so I took some lines from a section where she was talking. She was getting a little bit. It was the only place where I stopped and thought, "Oh my gosh, like this is something." Um, and I put it together. I took lines from it in sort of a cento form. So this is entirely her poem. I assembled it, but this is all her words. So I like to give her a little space and give her a chance to be a published poet and have her work read out loud. So this is called The Silence, the cento from the journals of Marjorie Dell Weldon Lane. She's the author here. I finally took out the obituaries. I hadn't wanted to read them. I do not understand my feeling in this. Now the papers are yellowed with the years. The sun came out this early evening, and I thought of the silent space of fields and meadow all around their home. A rough recollection, a turbulent year, bleak, lonely, humiliating. The cruel cut, the awful silent finality, the terrible grandeur and power of it, those who were here and now are gone. Shadows of lives before all around us, a still quiet awareness of time passing, time eternally putting things, even present things, in the past. The sun, the leaves moving, time all around us, so silent but rushing, rushing. That's first. Uh, there are times where you wish you could go. You find out something and you wish you could go back and be like, okay, can we talk now? And that's one of those when I read this when I read things like that, I just think like, but um, a couple. Just I have a couple more. Um, I will say I wrote. There's a poem about it in here, but I don't want to dig for it right now, and I haven't written it down. But um, she sent books to me. She was and among them were poetry books, a lot of poetry books. And she would put this tiny little faint pencil check, very faint. I think she probably hesitated to mark a book up in the corner of pages that she thought I should really read, right? And so I have these books from her, and it was the closest thing that she ever came to communicating like an emotion or directly connecting. And I think so much of like how that might have impacted just my belief that I could get so much out of reading, that I could get so much out of literature, that there were things to find in there beyond because I was looking for this relationship. So, but this one that I'm going to read is largely about that what I was talking about, that kind of sense of fear of loss being a at some point it becomes really um a burden, something that you waste energy and time on more than just an awareness. And so again, it's like I said, something I work on. Um, Higher. A minute is the last time that minute will ever happen. No wonder it's exhausting just existing, having to love nonstop because this love right now is over before you can say it. But I'm not done with love. Someone told me I write too much about fire, and I felt like he'd tried to slash my wrists. Don't blame the fire. It's just trying to survive, jumping and creeping to the next new loss, like it will never run out of fuel, like it doesn't need fuel. One day, it will be the last fire of this season, and one day, it will be the last fire. And I'll be telling you I love you through the thin white smoke. So my grandmother's not the only relative who shows up in here. There's lots of them. I just kind of assembled this thinking about the chance to kind of tell a bit of a story through a reading. Um, and at the end of the process, as I was approaching the end of writing the book, um, I realized I felt this great sense of release, that I was ready to let go of a lot of the questions, which I think like what a cool thing, right? To work on a book project and feel when it's ending, like to know, okay, this is where we're getting like but it was very this moment of working on this poem is really etched in my memory of where I was and what I was writing on. And it was my way of saying goodbye to the process. Bone Road. I think I want to let you go. I wanted you to tell me why it hurts so much to be alive and what part you had in me, what you started and ended, how you lasted through catastrophe or made amends for causing it. I wanted you to be why I'm what I am, to tell me how I can leave myself behind. But you're drops of water in the river, not the river I was dipped in when I first took breath, Lethe's opposite, anointing me with perpetual remembering. I ask too much of you. Let me ask too much of myself for whatever's left of this raggedy life. I release you to the road where I'll find you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. That was very wonderful, really, really wonderful. I think there were a lot of people who put remarks in the chat. Sorry, I didn't mention that at the beginning of the reading, but I think you got a lot of great feedback and people really enjoyed listening to everything.